We're watching Nvidia this morning, and we're watching the SPY and also Tesla. Nvidia is having a little pullback right now. Let's see, put the resistance right there. Nvidia is having a pullback right now, which we are watching real strong. Right at support. Got to be real careful, So we're going to go over here to this cryptocurrency hearing, making America the leader in cryptocurrency. And with that being said, trying to see what Bitcoin is up to right now. See if is there any reaction to this cryptocurrency hearing that they're having right now in the House. I'm gonna switch it to over there in a second so we can get educated about that to see what they're talking about. But as of right now, I am watching Nvidia. Since we've had a upside since this morning, we got down to 169. Now we are on the way up, trying to get back above 170, 175, but we got rejected right there at the 170, 175 area. So let me put it on the monthly, the 30-minute, and let me see. Okay, 169, great support right there, but we're having some problems trying to get back above this area right here. So we having all this right here, all this resistance, bringing us back down up under 172. So trying to figure out right now which way I'm gonna go. But I'm thinking if we get back up to the 172 area, I'm thinking that I will go for the short for the move back on down. That's what I'm thinking at this point. But right now I'm just watching to see what is going on. Okay, y'all give me a second right here. I am kind of behind and late, but it's all good. Appreciate y'all for joining me. I'm your host, the one and only Stock Sniper, and I'm trying to get a couple of things set up over here. At the same time, I'm watching Nvidia. Let me get back to the 1 minute. 1 minute time frame. Each candle is 1 minute. This you don't know. So what am I trying to do? Okay, I'm trying to go over here, get off of this. I'm doing 4 things at one time, guys. Give me a second. Doing 4 things at one time. Okay. Now we ready to rock and roll. I'm trying to see if we're going to get back up to this red line. Because if we can get back up to this red line, I'm going for the short. Let's see what's going to happen. Will we break straight through that red line? That's the question. Let's see. Boom. We back up to the red line. We back up to that red line. Let me see what's going to happen. We have been getting rejected at the red line. See right now. Can we get back above 175 to get above and get back to 172? See this area right here is where the holdup is. This area right over here. As you can see right clearly, this is the area we're trying to get above. 172, 172.50, 172.40, 172.50. This is where we're getting held up at right here. Right there. Let me go to the 10. Well, let's see what the 10. Okay, perfect area. Right. This is the great showing. This right here is the big jump up from that AI news, that China AI news. But now we had a pullback back down to 168, 169, which that is support. I'm finna make this support. So you got to establish the support and the resistance. The support is where it stopped going down at. The resistance is where it stopped going up at. And you got to establish that. So right now, we're right here where it stopped going up. That's the easiest way to explain it. Right here is where it stops going up. You can see there's a whole lot of problems right here. But if we break above this area right here, particularly if we get above 173, which will be all-time highs on Nvidia, guess what's going to happen? We're going to see a rejection, but if we get like to 173.50, 173.75, we're going to see a lot of buyers coming in to push it up to 175. So right here, we're getting rejected again. I should have took that short, but I didn't. I should have took the short, which was my plan, to take the short of the rejection of the 171.50, but I didn't take it. I was talking. But that's okay. That's one touch, two touch, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches. So I'm going to wait to see if we're going to get back up to this area. That's what I'm waiting for. I missed it just then because I was doing a lot of talking. Let's go over here to the SPY. Same thing with the SPY. This 123, 124 area. Same thing. You can see where it stopped going down at right here, which is 123.50, right? 123.35, 123.40, which is right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in my support, boom. And then I'm going to say right here. Let's see, right here is my resistance area. See, that's one thing about this. When it comes to these charts, you got to establish your support and you got to establish your resistance. The support, basically in simple terms, is where it stopped going down at in an area. The top line, which is the resistance, is where it stopped going up at. And that's where you get your good entries. The bounce of the support, the rejection of the resistance, the break of the support, and the break out of the resistance. That's where you get your good entries at. So let me go back to Nvidia. Okay, now we see where the support is on Nvidia, which is right around up in here. But one thing to understand is that these support and resistance lines, they change. They change. They change. So my original entry was the rejection of the resistance line for a short, because if you didn't know, you can make money on the stock market if it goes up or if it goes down. We got to understand that. That's what's so beautiful about this stock market. If you know the game, right, and you understand the support and resistance, if you understand the support and resistance, and you understand the flow of these candles, then I mean, it takes time to be able to establish that. But once you get it down, then it's easier to understand. Rando D, I like the colors, green and red. Yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to establish the green is the support and the red is the resistance. As we get ready, we breaking support. It looks like we're breaking the support, but we can also bounce off the support. That's when understanding, which is the layer number 2, is understanding the candle movement. See, we just bounced off the support. Hit it back up. Shout out to everybody that took that bounce off the support. You can totally see where we stop going down at. That is support. And when we stop going up, that is the resistance. In the middle, that's kind of like no man's land. That's 50-50. That's how I like to look at it. But we're holding. That's why it's very important to also go out and look at different time frames. This is the 30-minute candles. You can see it a little bit better on the 30-minute candles that it's getting held up right at 171.50 up to 173. This area right here, we're getting held up. So me, I'm sticking to my plan, which is wait for it to get back up, and hopefully we get another rejection off of this resistance area of this red line, this area right here, with a stop loss at like 170, 175. That'd be my stop loss, like a 25-cent stop loss. Because it can't, just because I got a plan of the rejection, that don't mean that it won't break through the rejection and get back above the 175, 170, 175 area. That's why I got to have a stop loss just in case it goes to getting out of hand. That's how it works. What we trading? I'm looking at Nvidia right now. I trade Nvidia just about every day. Now we broke breakdown. I trade Nvidia just about every single day. Just about every single day. We broke the support. We broke that support. 170.50. $170.50. Whoa, what an upper shadow. Making bank. Trying to. But what I was looking for was the rejection up here, which I missed it because I was talking. So I missed my entry, which was the rejection up here. So now we're trying to build another support. It's trying to work for another support area. See, trying to build another support. U.S. signs nuclear cooperation deal. Let's see. Get back over here. Hold up, guys. Just let me. I gotta switch it to look over here.
We're very concerned about it. We want it to stop.
Thank you for joining.
I'm sorry. We want the fighting to stop because we had a ceasefire overnight. It broke down. So we're talking to both sides, all the relevant sides on this, and hopefully we can bring it to a conclusion. But we're very concerned about it.
Thank you for joining us today. This concludes our ceremony.
Oh, missed it. I'm trying to see what's going on.
I want to add another.
About President Trump yesterday. It wasn't an official endorsement, but he
surprisingly complex tax obligation. The user must determine the market value of the stablecoin at both the time it was acquired and the time it was spent, even though any gain or loss is likely to be a fraction of a cent. Moreover, because blockchain transactions typically require users to pay small fees in the native asset of the network, the user must also calculate the capital gain or loss on that fee payment.
Expect?
Imagine if sending an email or text message triggered a tax reporting burden.
How do you know who I voted for?
This is the type of tax compliance burden of these networks.
How do you know?
In 1997, Congress recognized a similar problem with foreign
How do
currency
you know I
transactions
voted
and created a $200 de
for,
minimis exception.
How do you
Senators
know who I
long
voted
championed a
for?
comparable fix for cryptocurrency users, which would exclude
Kelvin
gains on
Jackson?
personal transactions below a certain dollar threshold.
How do you know that?
Thank you to Chairman Schweikert and Representative Del Bene for introducing legislation to create that sensible fix in past Congresses.
And when you respond,
the core element of all cryptocurrency networks is that validators, so-called miners and stakers, are incentivized to support the network by the ability to mint newly created cryptocurrencies for themselves. This mechanism is central to how these networks function without a central authority. Rather than relying on a trusted intermediary, the protocol uses economic incentives to coordinate a decentralized group of participants to verify transactions.
How do you know who I voted for?
The IRS currently treats newly created block rewards as gross income upon receipt. But these tokens are not received from another party. They are created by the validator, like a farmer grows a crop or an author writes a novel. The IRS's mischaracterization of block rewards leads to overtaxation, especially when tokens are depreciated or offset by dilution.
What do you use?
Congress should help ensure that block rewards are treated in line with existing tax principles applicable to newly created property, and clarify that rewards only constitute income upon disposition.
Right now, as Nvidia.
We also encourage the executive branch to promptly rescind its.
Getting ready to break down, guys. Nvidia is breaking down. Another bounce. I'm gonna move this. Look like this is more of a support right now. 170.50. $170.50. Can we break through that 170.50? Can we break it? Boom. There it go. There it go. There it go. That breakdown. Let's see how much further it's gonna go down. So Kelvin Jackson, if you still in here, bro, how do you know I voted for? What makes you think I voted for Donald Trump, bro? How do you know? Appreciate you for joining me though, Kelvin Jackson. But your comment didn't show up inside of the YouTube chat because you said something that YouTube obviously don't like. I don't know what you commented, that don't seem, really disrespectful. All you said was America's in the red. What did you expect? You voted for a bankruptcy king. I don't understand why they didn't show your comment, bro. That wasn't disrespectful or nothing. That's what you think I voted for Donald Trump. Caesar McCall Sr., what did you use? Okay. Right now, I'm using Webull right now because I'm trying to, I'm doing a review on Webull. And I actually like it, to be honest with you. I like Webull. But my main broker is Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim. But the next broker I'm going to review is going to be Lightspeed, specifically for day traders. That's going to be my next one that I review. But I'm liking Webull so good. I'm liking Webull so much that I've been using Webull for the past 6 months. So it's really been a long review on Webull. I was only expecting to review Webull for about a month, but I like it so much that I've been sticking with it. But I got to go back. Well, I'm going to go back to TD Ameritrade after I review Lightspeed. But I'm liking Webull, particularly because of the app. I like the Webull app. You can do basic. You can do basic technicals and research inside of the Webull app. That's what I like about it. And that, like, if you're on the run, you can get a notification on your entry that you're looking for. Some of the best notifications on this Webull app. I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot. Let's see. We trying to get look at Nvidia. Shout out to the put and the short sellers. My entry was right here. I missed it because I was talking, but I wanted the rejection of the 171.50, but I missed it. So I missed all this, bro. I missed it because I seen that we were getting hung up right here in this area from the AI news yesterday that Nvidia is going to be selling chips to China. And, we had that big run up. So they wouldn't let it go above 172.85. They wouldn't let it go above 173. So I seen all this and I said, well, okay, if we don't break out this morning, we're going to stay up under this area right here. And I was right. But I didn't pull the trigger. I seen this rejection, big upper shadow, and bam, fall off. But I didn't pull the trigger because I was talking. And now pulling the trigger, well, Stock Sniper, why you don't do it right now? Because it's risky. Right now, it's kind of risky, which I do think that we're going down even further, but it's not worth my risk because I missed my entry, which was up here. That started all of this. But it's risky right now. See, I was right, but I would be chasing right now. If I jumped in now, I would be chasing. And I don't want to risk that. I don't. Because at any second, we can get a lower shadow and it'll reverse and go back up. I don't want to risk that. So in other words, I'm not trading. I had my plan. I was talking and I missed it. And that's all it is to it. Okay, let's go over here.
Tax treatment of digital assets affect the industry and its customers, and how might more tax certainty encourage growth and investment in the crypto economy?
Thank you for that question, Chairman. The current tax treatment of digital assets is complex, it's burdensome, and it's costly. And for every dollar that is spent on complying with the tax code, that's one less dollar that is injected back into the business, back into innovation. And the tax code should never be a barrier to innovation. We need to modernize the tax code so we can level the playing field for digital assets, reduce these unnecessary burdens, and unlock the innovation and growth of the industry here in the United States.
And so we're listening in here to this House hearing.
Announcement is World Liberty Financial had invested nearly $250 million into Ether. So on the day of the announcement, World Liberty's Ether stash was boosted by $33 million. It is perfectly clear that Donald Trump is manipulating U.S. policy to line his own pockets. So, Mr. Frere, what risks do these flagrant conflicts of interest pose to the cryptocurrency market and the American consumers who participate in it?
Well, first of all, if I were in the crypto industry running a company, I would be shouting about making sure the president wasn't manipulating the markets and making them look quite bad, honestly. I think there was a Pew poll in the end of last year. It said 63% of Americans don't trust crypto, and 81% of Americans who have experience with crypto don't trust crypto. So I think when you have this issue where clearly an elected official is manipulating the markets and benefiting from that, it has to create a lack of confidence in that industry. So I think it's really harmful.
Yeah. Now, President Biden established the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team within the Justice Department, but Trump just disbanded this task force. What is why is it important to have these kind of checks?
It's important because people use financial instruments all the time to influence the government, and so you want to sort that kind of thing out. We have anti-bribery laws that need to be enforced. And in fact, the SEC had a large team working on crypto asset laws and enforcement, and that team has been renamed and essentially reassigned. And the top litigator on crypto issues was reassigned to the IT department to work on computers as a political punishment for having done his job. So taking away this enforcement is really damaging to not just the crypto markets, but to compliance in all of the markets.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Shu. To my monster drinking friend.
Thank you, Chairman.
You know, that stuff's horrible. Why can't you just do coffee like that?
By the way, it's not carbonated, and I don't think Secretary Kennedy would approve. But, you know, a United States Marine, we live off this, and in Congress, it's all goes.
All right.
So.
I kind of agree with what he said a little bit. I like crypto, but I really don't trust it 100%. Why, Stock Sniper? Because it's not insured like a regular stock. It's no insurance back behind it. So I like it, but then I don't trust it 100%. Like when it comes to crypto, my thoughts about crypto is different than my thoughts about owning a stock. It's different because there's no security behind crypto. Let me know what y'all think about that, what he said. I like it, but it ain't nothing that I watch it a lot, if that makes sense. I watch it a lot, but I don't like my stocks. I don't have to watch my portfolio like that because I know it's secure. With crypto, it's not really secure like that.
Up with innovation and not one that chases it overseas. Providing the certainty won't just improve compliance, it will unlock investment, create jobs, and expand access to next-generation financial infrastructure. We must get this right, not only for innovation's sake, but for the American leadership in financial technology. I call on my colleagues on this committee to join me in this effort on behalf of the millions of Americans investing in these assets of tomorrow, today.
Yes,
Ms. Mangiero,
and then if they steal it,
we've seen crypto-related job postings increase by over 100% year over year, with projections showing continued acceleration through 2025. In your view, how would implementing a comprehensive tax framework impact hiring, capital formation, and long-term domestic investment within this space? Would certainty around issues like staking, mark-to-market, and de minimis thresholds help drive growth?
Thanks for the question, Congressman, and thanks for your leadership in this space. What I would say is particularly focused on the staking issue. Staking is a homegrown American industry. Bison Trails, which was one of the first staking as a service providers, headquartered in New York City, eventually acquired by Coinbase, became Coinbase Cloud, now runs the enterprise staking infrastructure that powers a lot of this industry, has created hundreds of jobs. Blockdaemon, another company in this space, US-based company, unicorn status, $3.25 billion, all of the job growth created with that. So I think what we're seeing is, especially with regard to the staking industry, this is an industry that was born here, as I said previously in my remarks, when I first started working on this in 2019, $50 million today, $660 billion industry. I think you can see how important it is for us to keep that here in the U.S.
Yeah, I could not agree more with what you had just said, and thank you for that. Ms. Riley, legislative activity across several committees, from market structure and financial services to stablecoins and banking, has been strong. Tax policy is the through line connecting it all. Can you speak to how updated tax guidance would complement or even accelerate progress on market structure, consumer protection, and custody of frameworks across Congress? And if I may, what is the cost of continued inaction on the tax side?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. I think that's a great point, that as other regulatory efforts are moving forward, without having a tax code that keeps up, it could hinder the adoption and success of these efforts. I think a good example is in the context of stablecoin. There is still some work to be done in terms of broker reporting, especially if you're imagining the use case of stablecoins being used as payment stablecoins. If you want there to be widespread adoption, there needs to be a complementary tax code revisions as well. And I think tax certainty is an important part of market adoption. Taxpayers, when they lack confidence, it's difficult to develop new products, to innovate. And I think it could be a real hindrance as we move forward in these other efforts if the code does not keep up.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all of our witnesses for being here. We appreciate it. I think it's critically important that we work to modernize infrastructure, and that includes our financial infrastructure. And crypto, blockchain, digital assets are part of that. Innovations can lower fees and transaction times, increase consumers' financial privacy and security, and help unbanked communities. But right now, the crypto industry is facing a crisis of confidence, trust issue with the American people. And I hope this panel can provide some answers so folks can gain back that trust. 3 days before taking office, President Trump released a meme coin to the public and promoted a private dinner for the top 220 coin holders and a special VIP White House tour for the top 25. That's corruption. The president is opening the White House up for business and selling the fate of the American people to the highest bidder. We also know one of the top buyers of the coin was a China-linked firm called the GD Culture Group. Despite reporting zero revenue in 2024, this company somehow managed to purchase hundreds of millions of dollars of Trump's meme coin using proceeds from a, quote, a stock sale to an unnamed entity in the British Virgin.
So we were just listening in there in Washington, D.C., this House hearing on making America a leader in cryptocurrency policy. As you can see on your screen there, that is a post on social media from the Ways and Means Committee. As I've been saying here, it's been a very busy day. in Washington, D.C. In just a matter of moments here, we are going to head over to this live event set to start here, as we are going to be hearing from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy.
So that's one thing about crypto, is not FDIC insured. So it's easily, you can get scammed easy. Like a lot of people can make their own coin and then get their followers or whatever to invest into the coin and then pull the rug and ain't nothing you can do about it. That's why a lot of these dudes come up with their coins, like Cali coin. Like that's one example. He come up with his own coin and then get all the people that subscribe to him to invest in the coin. And then at the end of the day, they sell everything and take everybody's money and shut the coin down. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's why, don't get me wrong, I like crypto, but then I'm not 100% in it like that, because it's not insured. It's not FDIC insured. I can't lay down at night, sleep, and sleep good, especially if I got all my eggs or 50% of my eggs inside of crypto. Now I play with it a little bit, but Acorn had a coin too. Yeah, I know, but I haven't been watching them like that to see what actually happened. But at any given day, they can pull the rug. And ain't nothing you can do about it, but just accept the loss. Just like if you got Coinbase or whatever, and it get hacked, Coinbase is not obligated to give you your coins back. They don't have to. All they can do is say, we sorry, and we're gonna try to make it more safer. But the thing to do is take it off those brokerage accounts and put it on your own ledger. And that's too much for me. But that's what a lot of people do. They take it off those brokerages and they have it on their own little ledger.
Highway Trust Fund. We must maintain the user pays principle and offer solutions for putting the Highway Trust Fund on a more sustainable fiscal path. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to address the trust fund's funding challenges. Simply put, we have to make America build again. And with that, I want to thank you, Mr. Secretary, for again being here with us today, and I look forward to hearing your testimony and a productive hearing. With that, I recognize Rick for his opening statement.
That's a good choice because
they don't holding this hearing, Chair Graves, Secretary Duffy. Thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule as the head of two federal agencies now. I appreciate your appearance before the committee. This committee is a workhorse committee. We're not a showhorse committee. It has a history, which I appreciate Chair Graves continuing, of enacting legislation to fund critical transportation and infrastructure projects to create jobs, working across administrations to get these investments to our constituents. And I certainly want to continue that partnership. There's a lot of critical work ahead of us to modernize the air traffic control infrastructure and boost controller staffing, to improve rail safety, to upgrade roads, bridges, airports, and ports, and transform how we move people and goods safely through communities and across the country. We have a great opportunity to work together on job-creating infrastructure investments this Congress, including a surface transportation authorization bill. But to do any of that work, we do have to rise above the chaos. Delaying grants authorized in statute or conditioning transportation funding on things that don't have to do with transportation won't get us to yes. DOT is currently reviewing 1,300 approved grants, and your 26 budget request seeks to cancel $5.7 billion in EV charging grants. So I urge you to get on with the review of the remainder of these grants because we're leaving construction jobs on the table without these grants going out the door. Holding up these grants stalls badly needed job-creating infrastructure investments, and we need to get them going on that. Firing federal workers who oversee infrastructure or carry out critical safety missions won't get us to yes. More than 4,100 DOT employees have left the department, and several agencies in the department, including FHWA, FTA, and NHTSA, have seen reductions of more than 25%. So I urge you to consider how you're going to expedite project delivery and advance safety with the decimated workforce. Privatizing air traffic control won't get us to yes. The 24 FAA reauthorization for airports provides a blueprint to make long overdue investment in ATC infrastructure. My priorities are increasing the FAA's ATC and aviation safety workforce to meet growing airspace demand, expediting the deployment of critical runway safety technology, and replacing outdated ATC infrastructure, notably telecommunications, which are the nervous system of the ATC network. In the wake of the tragic Potomac mid-air collision and trend of near misses, we have to get it right. Now that Congress has provided DOT $12.5 billion to launch this mission, we need specifics on DOT's plan to improve our ATC system and ensure the safety of the flying public. And cutting off critical safety investments won't get us to yes. We have a national epidemic of preventable highway deaths. There's a clear federal interest for us investing in the infrastructure to ensure the safety of all modes of travel, including cars, trucks, bikes, shared use paths, and sidewalks. Congress has enacted programs that make these projects specifically eligible for federal funding, and unilateral actions by DOT to halt legally dedicated funding and reaching back to already awarded grants will make the traveling public less safe. The DOT's job is to implement the laws that Congress has negotiated and passed, and it's every member of this committee's job to hold DOT accountable to that standard, regardless of party in power, and regardless of how much we like the Secretary or not. And I do want to say I do like the Secretary, but he hears from me a lot. So far, this administration has played a little fast and loose with the division of responsibility between the legislative and executive branches. It has given deference to executive orders, even if Congress has already passed a law with a very different idea. So you received a lot of letters and inquiries from many members on this committee. I certainly collect a longer list of inquiries today, and I urge you to respond to each of these requests in a timely manner. I do want to thank you in advance for keeping us informed of the department's actions so that we can represent our constituents, solve transportation problems, and improve safety. I look forward to your remarks in today's discussion. Before we move on, I do want to yield the remainder of my time to Representative Chuy Garcia for a brief statement.
Thank you, Ranking Member Larson, for yielding so that I can express my support for the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. This committee regularly considers and reauthorizes the DBE program, most recently in the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024. This program combats intentional discrimination and ensures that women-owned and minority-owned businesses have a fair chance to compete for the transportation and infrastructure contracts. The committee has also collected statistical and qualitative evidence of discrimination faced by women and minorities in their attempts to establish, grow, and operate construction businesses and bid for highway, transit, and airport projects across the country. I've personally heard from firms across Chicagoland, including Ms. Deesh, who said, the DBE program creates opportunities for my company to pursue a piece of the project that would typically be too large for my company to pursue as a whole. Ms. Weiss said, the DBE program has brought me into the projects and partnership that literally keep my lights on. And Mr. Castro said, the DBE program has given our firm an incredible opportunity to work the engineering space on high-profile projects in our community. End of quote. As we prepare for the surface bill, the committee has received over 100 submissions supporting the continuation of this program and ensuring businesses in our districts are not shut out of the construction contracting opportunities. I ask unanimous consent to insert these letters into the hearing record.
Without objection.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Yield back.
So now, again, I want to welcome our witness, Secretary Duffy. And again, thank you for being here. I don't have to explain the lights to you, and let's all be mindful of the time constraints that we have. I might ask unanimous consent that the witness, the full statement be included in the record, and without objection, that is so ordered. I'd ask unanimous consent that the record at today's hearing remain open until such time as our witness has provided answers to any questions that may be submitted to them in writing. Without objection, that is so ordered. I'd also ask unanimous consent that the record remain open for 15 days for any additional comments and information submitted by members or witnesses to be included in the record of today's hearing. Without objection, that is so ordered. As your written testimony has been made part of the record, the committee asks that you try to keep your oral remarks to 5 minutes. So with that, Mr. Secretary, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Chairman Graves, Ranking Member Larson, members of the committee, thank you for having me today to testify before this great body. My aim over the course of this hearing is to provide you a sense of how building big, beautiful infrastructure is at the top of President Trump's priorities and how we can all work together in a bipartisan effort. And I would just note that for 9 years I sat where you sat, and I would tell you it's much more fun to sit where you're at than where I'm at. But it's good to be here with you all. I took office nearly 6 months ago, and in my first full day on the job, we experienced a sobering reminder of why the department's top priority is and always must be safety. The 67 lives lost by a mid-air collision of an Army helicopter and a commercial flight over the Potomac was a stark reminder of what's at stake in our most fundamental mission at the Department of Transportation. This tragic episode is also why the construction of a brand new air traffic control system is at the top of our agenda as we get America building again. I want to thank you all for passing one big, beautiful bill, the $12.5 billion, which is a down payment for this build. I know all of you did not vote for the big, beautiful bill, but I believe this portion, the $12.5 billion, I think we would have had unanimous support throughout the committee because you know probably better than anyone else how important our air traffic control infrastructure is, more so than probably anyone else in the country. So,
they have to say
though
how
I didn't
much
vote, I appreciate everyone's support for what we're trying to do. In May, I unveiled a 3 to 4 year plan to execute a complete overhaul of this outdated system. And let's be clear, flying is safe. I fly out of Newark all the time. It's now my most used airport. And we saw glitches in the system a few months ago in the TRACON in Philadelphia that impacts
Margaret.
The Newark airspace.
Hello, David Butler.
And those have exposed some issues within the system as a whole.
Do you have a question?
Our job is to keep air travel safe, which is why I've dedicated my tenure to delivering an all-new a brand new air traffic control system, state-of-the-art, gold-plated, best in the world.
3-minute limit.
Our goal is to make air travel not just safer, but also more efficient with more commercial flights, more drones, more air taxis, and an ever-expanding commercial airspace as well. This is the time, if we're going to be able to meet all those needs, to rebuild this system. Our department has also moved swiftly to streamline the hiring process for new air traffic controllers. You all know we're 3,000 controllers short. And so in May, we launched a spring initiative to supercharge our controller fleet with lucrative bonuses to controllers who are eligible for retirement. We're asking, they're the most experienced too, by the way. We're asking them to stay longer. We're giving them a 20% upfront cash bonus to stay beyond their eligible date of retirement to try to fill this gap. We have already cut months off the hiring pipeline as we're enrolling new people into the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City. This is not, and we're probably going to talk about this, there's not one silver bullet to shoot on air traffic control. We have to take all of these multiple steps to move as quickly as possible to get more young people into the business of air traffic control and keep more of those experienced controllers on the payroll. And as you know, as a graduate of the academy comes out, they just don't go into a tower and they're not certified. It takes time to certify in the different airspaces across the country. So I ask for your patience, but also we have some money in the big, beautiful bill to help with that. We're hoping in 2026 to get to 2,500 new controllers out of the academy and start their certification process. Recent changes at Newark Liberty International Airport have demonstrated the effectiveness of our proposal to fix the aging system. And just real quick, the runway was was completed almost 2 weeks before schedule. One of our problems is that we have companies that we deal with at mid-management level. I'll just say the DoD gets the top-level management. They're the first project on the docket for many of these companies. We are now getting CEO engagement. Verizon helped us. They laid a fiber line between the Philly Tracon and N90 within a month. We took another month and tested that line. So in 2 months after you saw what happened in Newark, we had the new line up and running, alleviating those issues we had with telecom. And I think that's just, I know some of you have asked, can the FAA do this? We can, and I think this is a great example of how we're thinking about and engaging corporate America differently to accomplish the goals that you're going to set for us. I know I'm out of time, and we don't have a lot of time today. I know we're going to talk about surface reauthorization. I'm happy to have a conversation about that as we hopefully together in a bipartisan fashion come up with a plan for America and how we rebuild this infrastructure. I appreciate the time of the committee, and I look forward to your questions. And with that, I don't know if I get to yield back as a witness or not, but I yield back.
All right, some opening remarks there from Secretary Duffy as he is testifying right now. Now, some of the topics include the Department of Transportation's policies, programs, and budget. We're going to head back to that in just a moment here on Live Now from Fox. Let's step away for another break. When we come back, we're going to take you right back out to Washington, D.C., so don't go anywhere.
Evacuation project called lentil soup, pasta, or other things for us. But as you saw, everyone runs around the GHF sites. Some people manage to get food, but others don't. And until now, the children haven't had breakfast. There is no food, there's no flour, nothing. We're cut off.
Chris Gunnis is a former UNRWA spokesman. He described the GHF sites as human abattoirs or slaughterhouses.
You know, I regret having to use that phrase, human abattoir, but that's exactly what they have become. And let's take a step back and look at what is going on. An army which has put a fence round 2.3 million defenseless people, starved them to death. The blockade has been going on since at least 2007. We now have a situation where people are starving to death. They're herding them south into what one former Israeli prime minister has described as a Nazi-style concentration camp. When these starving, unarmed civilians come for food, they're then shot and taken to hospitals where, because of the Israeli army and its supporters, and I'm thinking here of my own government, the British government, but also the Americans, the Germans, Europeans, the list can go on. But because Israel has been getting away with not allowing medicines in, these people who are starving and shot at are then taken to hospitals where they're having to have operations without anesthetics. So that's the big picture. There's a genocide going on. I think increasingly politicians around the world, scholars, human rights people, people with knowledge of what's going on the ground have done the factual analysis, have done the legal analysis. It's a genocide, and it's a genocide which is now seeing a huge concentration camp being established and being live streamed on our television sets. Whatever happened to the phrase never again? It seems that Israel and its supporters believes that that phrase only applies to Israelis and Jews.
The World Health Organization says more than 10,000 Palestinians urgently need to be evacuated from Gaza to get life-saving treatment. Israel is blocking their safe passage abroad while severely limiting critical supplies getting into hospitals. Since Israel's war on Gaza began in 2023, only 7,000 wounded Palestinians have been able to leave. Tariq Abu Azoum reports now from Deir al-Balah in central Gaza.
Mohammed al-Bahri was once a nurse, helping wounded people in Gaza. Now, he is one of tens of thousands who have been injured, suffering, and forgotten. He was shot by Israeli forces while trying to collect food from a food distribution site run by the notorious Israel and US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Since that day, he has not spoken a word.
My son was a nurse, saving lives and treating the wounded. But famine left us with nothing, and he was forced to go to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to bring back food. That's when he was shot. Now he can't speak. He has lost all feelings in his right leg and hand.
Mohammed needs to be evacuated so he can receive urgent medical treatment. But like thousands of others, he is trapped in Gaza's collapsing health system, with help far away and out of reach. In the strip's broken hospitals, every hallway is a waiting room. Mohammed Dawas is a Palestinian with special needs. His legs were damaged by shrapnel from an Israeli bomb that exploded close to him. He may never walk again.
My son Mohammed was injured while walking along the beach. The injury left him paralysed and he urgently needs treatment abroad. But the number of wounded is overwhelming and Gaza's hospitals can't provide the care he needs. We're watching him suffer, knowing we can't help him here.
The World Health Organization says more than 10,000 people in Gaza urgently need to be evacuated from the strip to get the treatment they need.
Bro.
What we need is multiple corridors for this medevacs. We need the restoration of the traditional referral pathway from Gaza to the West Bank and East Jerusalem. We also need more countries who are willing to receive these patients from Gaza.
The organization says just 7,400 patients have been moved out since October 2023, including more than 5,000 children.
Time is running out for Gaza's wounded, and for thousands of them like Mohammed, hope is fading with every day that passes, and for many of them, the long delay in getting the urgent medical help they need means so is life. Tariq Abazoum, Al Jazeera, Deir al-Balah, Palestine.
Dr. Hani Islim is a medical evacuation project coordinator for Gaza at Doctors Without Borders. He says the change of the U.S. administration has had a significant impact on Palestinians who need to leave to get treatment abroad.
Before the election, it was completely a lot of countries that they were so open to take cases. But then with the longer process of getting the approval from the Israeli authorities, between brackets is what called the COGAT. It is the department that responsible of giving the clearance of the patients of departuring, even all the supplies and everything. So they are always, or most of the time, they were denied. Even the patient, if it is approved, they were really refusing the companion. And there is no clear reason behind this refusal and no justification behind that. And we notice that it is a random and arbitrary refusal because the patients sometimes a few weeks later, they can go with the same rejection to go out. So there is no clear justification of that. And that's make them a lot of country who was really motivated and open at the beginning of the crisis of Gaza to take patients, that did make them desperate and fail to take patients. Then we have the second phase after the election of Trump and the new U.S. administration arrived, and the announcement of the forcible immigration of the Palestinian or Gaza people out of Gaza, that make the options very limited and made a lot of countries who was willing to take cases outside of Gaza to hesitate and change their plan because of the political stance.
Still ahead on Al Jazeera, Russia sends record numbers of drones to attack central Ukraine just after the US president announced he's ramping up weapon deliveries to Kyiv.
Hearing.
It's a lot going on around the world, guys. And then Israel attacked Syria. I'm surprised they're not talking about that much. But it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on in the world. Appreciate y'all for joining me. All 45 people in the building, hit the like button. Hit the like button. Appreciate y'all for joining me. I am your host, the one and only Stock Sniper. Got to pray for these people in Gaza. The Palestinians got to pray for them people, man. Got to pray for them. They are in a bad situation. I mean, horrible. And it looks like it's getting worse. It's getting worse. So, and then we got President Trump saying 50 days to Russia, and Russia has upped it up. As we about to get ready to see right now, they finna start talking about Russia and Ukraine right now. Russia is really, really, really hitting Ukraine. There's a lot of bad situations going on around the world. So, man, in America, we really, really blessed. We blessed, bro. We blessed in America. That's why I like looking. I like looking at what's going on around the world. It makes you realize how blessed you got it in America. Or how blessed we got it, or I got it in America. But yeah, I think that those people in Gaza, I think that needs to end. And Ukraine. But it looks like it's going to get worse. That's my opinion. I think this stuff is going to get worse as time goes. We're going to see new wars break out as time goes. Okay, let's see what they're talking about now. Appreciate y'all for joining me.
Syrian Defense Ministry in the capital Damascus. Meanwhile, another attack hit right near the presidential palace.
That's what I was just talking about.
Earlier threatened to increase attacks if the Syrian government forces did not withdraw from As-Suwaida in the south of the country. Meanwhile, in As-Suwaida, the Syrian Defense Ministry says its troops are responding to attacks by armed groups. It says army forces are there to stop the violence between Druze fighters and other groups, which began on Friday. Let's go straight to Noor Odeh. She joins us from Jordan's capital. She's in Amman because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and the occupied West Bank. Noor, so talk us through exactly what the Israelis have been saying about their actions in Syria today.
Well, Marlene, the Israeli government has been quite clear about its self-assigned role of enforcer in Syria. It views itself as having the firepower and the ability to impose on the Syrian government its agenda of demilitarizing southern Syria, of protecting or ensuring the protection of Druze in Syria, especially in Sweda, and of doing that even if at the cost of military intervention. Now, since the beginning of the day, we've seen statement after another from the Israeli Minister of Defense saying that if Damascus doesn't understand our messages of the strikes against military convoys in Sweda, then our messages will escalate. It took less than 2 hours for that escalation to happen, and we saw strikes at the heart of Damascus. We heard from the Israeli Prime Minister telling Israeli Druze that Israel will do what it can and what is within its means to fulfill its promise to the leaders of the Druze community in Israel to protect Syrian Druze in Sweda, and that means military action by the Air Force, by the Army, and other forces, according to that video statement. And we're hearing that the Israeli military is allocating resources, additional resources, to the front with Syria. Remember, the Israeli army is occupying additional Syrian territory in addition to the occupied Syrian Golan, or the part of it that's been occupied since 1967. So it's already within Syrian territory, and now there will be more forces allocated to that front, even if it comes at the cost of other war fronts that Israel has launched in the past 2 years or so. That's according to Israeli statements reported by Israeli media. So we see that escalation, that determination by Israel to impose its will and its agenda on the Syrian government. We haven't heard any reaction about these initial reports about an agreement, a renewed agreement in Sweden between the government and the Druze community there of restoring calm and maintaining a government control in the area.
Okay, thank you for that update. Noor Odeh there for us from Jordan's capital. Well, let's go straight to Zaina Khoda, who is in Damascus for us. Zaina, Noor just mentioned this news that we seem to be getting now of a renewed ceasefire between the Syrian government forces and the Druze community in the south. What more are you hearing? And remind us of the context of which this is in, because this time yesterday there was another ceasefire, and look at where we are today.
The Interior Ministry is confirming to us that a ceasefire indeed has been reached with Druze groups in Sweden, groups that have been ready and willing to deal with the new authorities in Damascus. And this deal, according to the Interior Ministry, will involve the deployment of government forces. They will set up checkpoints, and this area will be fully integrated into the Syrian state. A very different agreement that what has been reached in the past, negotiated settlements in the past to end bouts of violence, whether in April, whether in May. So this agreement involves the government maintaining presence in Sweden. Now, this deal is reportedly with groups that are ready to work with the state. There are Druze groups that are not ready to work with the state. One of them, Sheikh Hajri, his whereabouts are not known. What we understand is that government forces have taken control of much of Sweda city. So did those who oppose the government presence leave the area? It's too early to say. The situation is still quite fluid on the ground. Will there be another counteroffensive? Just like you asked, because there was a ceasefire for 48 hours ago, but there were no details. There was no deal. So now a deal is reportedly in place where the government will maintain its presence in Sweden. But the biggest question is now, how will Israel react to this deal?
Absolutely. On that point, I mean, the reason that they attacked al-Sweda in the first place is because of the Syrian government forces that were there. And they have said repeatedly they are determined to make those Syrian government forces leave the south. So where does this dynamic leave the situation?
Yes, in the past hour, there was an Israeli strike in the southern province of Daraa targeting a military position. In the past 2 hours or so, we saw a strike after another target the building behind me, Syria's defense ministry. And we are in the heart of the Syrian capital, Damascus. You know, if you just look around, there was a lot of panic. The streets are empty. People are in their homes. And then there was another strike close to the presidential palace. Israeli leaders have been saying time and time again in recent days that they will continue and intensify and escalate strikes if Syrian government forces remain in the southwest of the country. They want that whole area, like Noor was mentioning, to be a demilitarized zone. Yes, they talk about protecting the Druze community, but they too have strategic and national interests. They want this area clear from government forces. So it's still too early to say whether, this conflict is over, whether the Syrian government can claim victory and say that they've extended the state's authority in the south of the country, or at least in parts of the south of the country. This really has been one of their greatest challenges.
If you could remind us, Zaina, about the context of the new Syrian regime, the al-Shara government has been backed, of course, by the United States and by lots of regional players. And when we were speaking to Kimberly Holkert a little earlier, our Washington correspondent, she was telling us it seems like the U.S. has been taken by surprise by these strikes from Israel. So how does this complicate the dynamics even further?
On Monday, to quell fighting between Druze fighters and Bedouin armed men. but the Syrian government forces ended up clashing Druze militias themselves. Look at, it's a guy with a Syrian flag. The Israeli military said it continued to strike Syrian, what it called Syrian regime targets in southern Syria, including tanks and pickup trucks mounted with machine guns heading towards Suwaida. The Syrian Network for Human Rights reported that 169 people had been killed in this week's violence. Security sources put the toll at 300. Reuters could not independently
verify. You gotta
the
go later. Later, Manuel.
Now, something else that's going on today. Here's another report from Reuters. Following calls in Israel to help the Druze people in southern Syria, scores of Israeli Druze broke through the border fence on Wednesday, linking up with Druze on the Syrian side, a Reuters witness said. The Israeli military says it's working to safely return Israeli civilians who crossed the border. The U.S. Syria envoy Tom Barak condemned violence against civilians in Suwaida. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire, he said. President Sharad, the new president of Syria, has repeatedly promised to protect minorities. News outlet Suwaida 24 said that Suwaida and nearby villages were coming under heavy artillery and mortar fire early today. The Syrian Defense Ministry called on residents of the city of Suwaida to stay indoors. Yesterday, a Reuters reporter said they had seen government forces looting and burning homes in Suwaida and stealing cars and furniture. One man showed the reporter the body of his brother who had been shot in the head inside their home. Some people gathering there outside the defense headquarters there in Damascus. And it looks like some responders there in the red. YT Sprinkles says, hopefully it doesn't escalate. Middle East is so unpredictable. Agent Delta Zulu thinks Israel is going for the entire region and the rest of the world turn a blind eye. Will Syria retaliate? Says Ane Walunjkar. I have a hard time thinking that the Syrian military is going to directly attack Israel. I don't think the Syrian military wants to get into some sort of war with Israel.
That's what it seemed like to me, that Israel is doing whatever Israel want to do and nobody's saying nothing. They're attacking all these people and nobody's saying nothing.
I'm going to check a couple of different sources here.
Crazy word.
Where did this go? Hang on a moment here.
Let's see.
Where did I I want to see if I have any updates for you. Just give me a moment. Oh, did Marco Rubio say something? I just saw that there's a quote from Marco Rubio. But I don't have it myself here. Anadolu Agency, which is a Turkish news outlet, I think it's a state news outlet, they say that Secretary of State Rubio of the U.S. says the U.S. is very concerned by Israeli strikes on Syria and says we want the fighting to stop.
Man, ain't nobody gonna stop, bro. It's gonna get even worse.
Have been exploited by Israel. They've been convinced that perhaps they could revive the idea of a Druze state in the southern part of Syria. Be that as it may, Israel continues to exploit the differences within the country as it tried to exploit the differences with the Kurdish minority in the north. So if they did arrive at a deal, that's a good news. But of course, we have to approach it with skepticism because they've just reached one 2 days ago.
It's going to get even worse.
And Marwan, again, for the sake of our audience who may not be familiar, to what extent has Israel previously intervened in Syria under the pretext of defending minority groups like the Druze?
Well, certainly they've been doing that since March. And in terms of in Syria and in the region in general, one of the doctrines of Israel since the 1950s, and it's actually a written thing, it's not, analytical on my part, is that they wanted to reach out to and connect with various minorities within the Middle East and connect with non-Arabs within the Middle East. Of course, the Druze are Arabs, but for example, the Kurds and others, they thought, even Persians and so on and so forth. So Israel's idea of weakening the Arab states surrounding it through minorities and through non-Arab countries has been a doctrine in Israel since the 1950s. And it is in that sense that a colonial implant, as it's viewed in the Arab world, continues nonstop to divide its neighbors in order to be the more powerful one. And in fact, it succeeded, one must admit, that in the past year or so, by destroying much of Iran's defenses, by destroying much of Hezbollah's capabilities, by attacking and destroying much of Syria's military capability, by continuously bombing Yemen, they have been trying to establish themselves as hegemon. And not just any hegemon, they're trying to replace the United States as the Middle East hegemon. That's why, and I'm just going to go up in a limb now and say, some of those, pro-Israel voices in Washington are shocked because what is Netanyahu doing exactly? I mean, didn't Trump shake, the Syrian president's hands in Riyadh and called him a handsome man? So why is Israel attacking the Syrian capital and attacking even the presidential palace without apparently clearing it with Washington? So the Netanyahu government clearly has gone off the ramp with its arrogance, and clearly, and really this is the most important thing of all for the long term for us as media, to state that international law dies in Israel every single day. International law dies in Israel every single day.
Marwan, one of the things to mention is when it comes to the Druze community, they're very much an integral part of the region. Across the region, we have Druze in Syria that we've been talking about in the south. We have Druze in Jordan. We have Druze also in Israel. How do you think the Israeli public is viewing the government's explanation for the strikes on Syria? Is the Druze community in Israel supportive of this move?
Okay, so briefly, in a few seconds, to summarize 10 centuries of history, they did belong to this part of the Near East for the past 1,000 years or so. And they are their presence is within, as you said, Palestine, historical Syria, basically, Palestine, Syria, Jordan, and Lebanon. And generally speaking, they have had different positions, different fights since they fought the Crusades up to the early 1920s when they fought the French. But they also, when they became partner in Israel, they made, a Faustian deal, if you will, with the Israeli government, and they began to serve in the Israeli army. But the Druze in Lebanon, for example, have been part and parcel. In fact, they were leaders of the Arab nationalist progressive movement in Lebanon, and that's why they were targeted by Israel. And in fact, up until a few weeks ago, Walid Jumblat, who's sort of the leader of the Druze in Lebanon, have continuously warned his fellow Druze in Syria not to fall the trap of Israel, as Kurds fell to the trap of Americans and Israelis, by avoiding any such contacts with Israel or any such accommodation for Israel in Syria, in order to be part and parcel of the Syrian state, like the Druze in Lebanon are part and parcel of the Lebanese state. So while the Druze are not monolith, but there is a predominant trend within the within the Druze communities in the Near East that has been anti-colonial, anti-foreign powers, and certainly been sort of nationalistic in the parts of in Syria and Lebanon and other places.
Okay, Marwan. A very complicated history. Thank you for breaking that down for us. Marwan Bashar, Al Jazeera senior political analyst there for us in Paris.
All right, let's go. I want to hear about this. What's going on over there?
8 people have been injured in Russian strikes in central Ukraine. The Ukrainian emergency services say hundreds of drones were flown towards the central Vinnytsia region and Kharkiv in the northeast, but most were shot down. Russia has launched a record number of drones over the past week, while Ukraine has been attacking Russian energy sites. While staying with the Ukraine war, Russia has dismissed Donald Trump's threat to impose harsher tariffs on Russian exports as a theatrical ultimatum. The Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, says the US president is responding to pressure from NATO and the EU. Well, Trump says the US will also impose secondary tariffs of 100% on Russia's trade partners if a peace deal with Ukraine is not reached within 50 days. Threats come after Trump announced a plan to supply US weapons to Kyiv through NATO member states. Hannah Shellist is the Security Studies Program Director at the Ukrainian PRISM. She says that some of the weapons are already ready for deployment.
They're a quite a complicated scheme. You cannot name one country or one weapon. Why it is because the idea that some of these weapons are already in the stockpiles of the NATO member states, and they can quickly deliver them to Ukraine, as, for example, several Patriot systems that currently are in use in the European countries. That can be Germany, that can be Greece, that can be few others. And then they would be replenished, like replaced by those from the United States that are currently under the development or construction. That's, if we speak about the Patriots, that is the most sophisticated and expensive weapons in this proposal. But we also speak about the 155 ammunition. We're speaking about the long-range missiles of the different types.
Yeah, we know that. They don't care.
The missiles for the different
air defense
systems. Because previously in the packages that being called Ukrainian packages, de facto they were tasked the U.S. business to produce different type of munitions that we expected. So this ammunition is already ready and can be quickly delivered, but the U.S. would like the European partners, the European allies in NATO, to pay. De facto, that would be additional pay, let's be honest, for some of this ammunition, but at least Ukraine would receive what is so important for its now, the proper air defense.
Ukraine has a new prime minister as part of a wartime cabinet reshuffle. Yulia Svidenko has spent nearly 4 years serving as first deputy prime minister and minister of economic development and trade. She recently finalized a natural resources deal with the US and is believed to be respected by senior figures in the Trump administration. Her appointment follows Ukrainian MPs voting to dismiss Denis Shmyhal as prime minister. To Iraq, where Kurdish forces say they have struck 3 oil fields in the semi-autonomous Kurdistan region early on Wednesday. There's been damage to infrastructure, but no casualties have been reported. It comes a day after a similar attack in which a US-run field was set ablaze. Tension has been rising between the Iraqi government and regional Kurdistan authorities after an increase in violence over the past few weeks.
Wow.
More wildfires have destroyed forests and damaged buildings in Turkey. Towns and
yeah, there's a lot going on, guys. There's a lot going on. So I'm gonna end it right here. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. To the next one, I'm out. Y'all have a great day. I'm out.